All right, what's up, everybody? This one is for February. We are focusing on hooks and filters. First thing, like usual, we're gonna go around. First me, then it's gonna be Cristiano, and then Afsal. We're gonna talk about each other a little bit. I am Jose. I work at Maintain with Web Dev Studios. I've been working with WordPress for almost no, I wish it was 7 years. About 5-6 years now. I've been doing theme reviews for about as long as that. Alrighty, let's go with Cristiano. Tell us about yourself a little bit.
Hi everybody. I'm Cristiano from Italy. I'm a theme reviewer. Also, we will have a work camp in April. Come with us. And meetup organizer, WooCommerce and WordPress organizer. And we together try to promote every single aspects of WordPress in support also and in theme reviewing.
Awesome. Afsal?
Hello, my name's Afsal. I've been involved in theme development for about 3 years and was helping out with forums and support, things like that, for a couple of years before that. And just getting involved with these Hangouts, like I said previously, to share knowledge and share experience. And Cristiano gave a shout out to WordCamp Italy, so I'll give a shout out to WordCamp London. If anyone's going to be there, I'll see you there.
Awesome. It's good to hear. All right, so the primary focus of this, of course, is going to be on hooks and filters and when to use them, what to use them, how they work. It's going to be a very, very simplistic overview of what they are. So this obviously will hopefully help out both the theme authors as well as the theme reviewers understand. Before we dive in, do you guys have anything you want to chime in on?
Well, just that this is something which I think is essential for anybody who develops themes to understand. And, as we'll go through the Hangout, you'll see that there are lots of ways of, adding code, injecting code the proper way, and to keep your site secure, loading fast, things like that, which a lot of people are doing by hard coding scripts or other methods.
Yeah, okay. It's very important to realize a well-done code and a faster code, like said Afzal, because you can make a code that is working, but it's not well done. So maybe if you don't use this way of coding, you can make a really bad and not so fast code.
Awesome. All right, so let's dive in. So, hooked on a filter. Actions are as sweet as candy, and they can be. So, first thing we want to go over, of course, is actions. What are actions exactly? To dumb it down and to simplify things, it's literally things done on a timeline. Now, if your face is not this, good for you, awesome, you totally know what actions are. If you don't, this is actually going to help you out a lot because it kind of gives you an idea of what they actually are. So, an action is literally the do action. That's all it is. So, in this example, we'll see that, hey, if a term does not exist, then we're going to insert it. But before we insert it, we have an action called before insert. And then after, we have another action called after insert. WordPress core does this. And it does this a lot on certain things. For example, if you actually look at the documentation that is in the Google Docs, you'll see a bunch of them. WP head and Q scripts after insert theme, those are actions in a specified time when the page loads. That's all it is. Let's take a basic everyday example. Waking up. What's one of the first things we do? Of course, we turn off the alarm, we take a shower, make breakfast. Sometimes it doesn't always happen that way, but obviously this is a basic outline of what can happen. An action before that could be before an alarm, before you take a shower, before you even eat breakfast or you make breakfast. All right. Now, filters are actually very same methodology behind them. The only difference is filters, you have to return something. That's the key thing right there. You have to return something. And why? Because it's something that you can change. So, for example, we have an alarm clock, and the alarm clock says it is currently and whatever time it is, right? Well, in your theme, you're probably going to do something like that. For example, what is it? It's the title. WordPress has this little filter, and what it does is it uses apply filters, and then shortly after that, it's the name of the filter. So it would be the time. But this time, of course, in this example, we have alarm text, and what we are filtering is it is currently. If we add an action, if you add a filter to that, we can change that. And that's actually how core works. If you look at the title, what is it doing? So if the title is empty, then we have return there is no currently set title. That's how that filter works. And if it's not empty, or if it's actually populated with something, then we simply return it. All right, that's a basic filter.
Yeah.
Time to dance, right? Kind of a simple, very simplistic overview.
Exactly. I mean, touching on some of those points then, so when it comes to the actions that we looked at first of all, on their own, they don't output anything. They're just there to allow you to filter into those actions to output some code, for example.
Yeah.
Because if we take a look at slide 6, for example, the turn off alarm, take shower, make breakfast functions are all there to output something, I assume. Whereas those actions, if nothing is hooked into them, then nothing will be output.
Yep.
And that's the point of an action. It just allows the user to hook something into it, to add code in that place. And one of the really good things is you can start modifying code or something along those lines without needing to edit the core code. Take WordPress for example. You would never edit the core code, but you can apply that same logic to themes, and a lot of users do edit themes.
Yep.
Whereas
sometimes it happens. Even though...
Yes, it does happen. We try to avoid it though.
Exactly. Whereas if we understand actions and how to implement them in our themes, and we allow users to better customize those themes through the use of child themes.
Yeah, it's very important to understand well this way of coding, because avoid to write directly in the core, and it's part of the hierarchy or files. And when one page is seen in the front end, it should come from a child theme, a theme, and never you have to modify the core that is one step beyond. So filters is something you have to use most of the time to modify core function, core way of doing things. So
exactly. And also if you're say supporting advanced plugins like WooCommerce, for example, you can make your theme completely compatible with WooCommerce without style it for your theme, modify it for your theme, by understanding how to remove and add to the action, to remove and add filters and to output content in the various actions in WooCommerce.
Very true. And then, of course, you get into the slightly advanced aspect of it. So, for example, like we have something like this, right? We have our basic theme that says, hello world, alarm is off, the shower taken, made breakfast, and bye world. And so what we end up doing is we have an action, it's called morning. Super simplistic, nothing major. And this is an example of what core can do. So what we end up doing is we add an action, we have our callback function. This time it's the wake up call. So
are we meant to be looking at your screen right now, Jose? Or
right now, no, not on yours. But I can't share it though.
Oh, okay. No need to. He didn't intend.
There you go.
.wordpress.org.
All right. So we have morning. We wake up, do action. We have another do action before the shower, before the breakfast. And so, of course, it's going to look like this. The alarm's off, the shower's taken, and we made breakfast. Now, what's kind of cool is Core, from time to time, will have something along the lines of this, where you're passing along two different things. Alright, so it's passing 1, 2, and oftentimes it'll be like a post or an ID or another string or something along those lines. In this example, all I'm passing is the month and the date, or the day, I'm sorry. So from there, what we end up doing is we refresh and we check, hey, it is February and it is Saturday. And part of that reason is because we're passing it to variables, the first one and the second one. And then what we do is conditionally check, hey, if it's February, then hey, it's February. If it's Saturday, it's Saturday. And they correspond, of course, to the first and the second. Core does this a lot in a lot of them, especially in filters too. Filters work the same exact way. The only thing is, like I said, filters, you have to return something. Otherwise, you're going to get a big error and you're going to be troubleshooting for days. I learned that one the hard way.
And what's a major issue then that we see from themes that get submitted where they don't understand how to use actions and filters correctly?
So part of it is because they don't know those actions or filters actually exist. That is the biggest thing that I've come across, and that's the biggest thing I've seen. I know I've encountered at least 3 different things that don't use the output filter for the post thumbnail. And what's funny is that one is actually found in includes post thumbnail. So we go to the post thumbnail and you'll see that it is in get the post thumbnail. And there's one filter, there's 2 filters that you can use in there. The one that you probably want to hook into is post thumbnail HTML.
And you can just find that by searching the various bit of code in.
Yep. And in order to find those, you want to look for the do action and then apply filters. Those are the 2 ones that you want to look for. I actually made a quick little thing the other day that lists all the current actions, with at least within trunk. And there were, let's see.
Yeah. The main thing is to promote and to read it. So I agree with Jose. It's discovering all the possible filters apply and not to try to do things without knowing what's already on the code, what's already on the core, what you can do, only modifying something already present in WordPress. That this is something very common.
Yeah.
Not everybody got to remember all the things that are involved and are present in WordPress, so you don't have to learn and like a poem to repeat, but you have to read the documentation that is well done. And nowadays there are a lot of new documentation made by Kenshino. It's very, very, very well written. And so the first thing is you could maybe ask in Slack channel, if you no in the forum, or if you want in every place you find you can reach your meetups, your local meetups. You can go there and ask if someone else already done a theme or a plugin, and you can ask to him and try to not to reinvent the wheel and to follow the instruction, to follow the original function that you can add, modify using filters and so on. That's I think that's very important.
I think when you say like to not reinvent the wheel, sorry, that's so important, because just taking a look at the doc that accompanies this Hangout in the filter section, I've seen users, one of the very common ones is hard coding scripts into header or footer while just filter it, add into the one of the hooks like WordPress head, WordPress footer, and you can even by understanding these hooks, reposition where your script or style sheet will be output. So if it has a higher priority, you can have it loading before everything else, or after, and that's particularly useful if you have, say, styles in separate sheets. So you might have one style sheet, for example. This is what I do. I have a style sheet which is the same in pretty much all my themes, for like basic shortcode type stuff. And then if I want to add a theme specific bit of styling, I add that to the main style sheet. But I make sure that the main style sheet always loads after the shortcode style sheet. So if you don't do it that way and you don't understand how to output the scripts in specific order, then you get into a habit of writing your code with a lot of importance, and that just makes it harder then for the end user to customize if they want to customize. So, and you'll find actually when they customize, they don't always use importance. They just think their code is wrong, and you just end up with loads of issues being reported.
Also, if they want to make a child theme from your theme, for example, if the order is
exactly. It's just a whole host of issues that can be introduced. And the other one as well, which is really important, are the body and post class. I've seen cases where people have functions and they put that function into their code literally in the same line as body class or post class or something, when they don't need to do that. They could just hook into there and add a specific class if they wanted to.
Yep, very true. But yeah, so like I was saying, I made a quick little document just randomly and trying to remember how many there were, but there's quite a few actual actions. I'll share the screen with you guys. So it's kind of neat in that if you look, every single one of them has just the basic thing, and then there's the occasional conditional in between, and of course the signs are where the files are. So we have the sign up, before sign up header, before sign up form, and then of course, like I was saying, the sign up blog form passes in errors, conditionals, and obviously there are quite a few. Admin init, load, and then a page hook. And that's another little conditional one that you can actually do. So if you are specifically loading on just one page, you can do that. Add action to load dash and then the name of the page. Cool for those that are on the admin screen, right? That's one of the things that we always try to encourage, saying like, hey, if you don't need to load it, don't load it. This is how you do it.
On that point specifically, I've had feedback in some of my reviews actually where I used to load a backend styling script, but I loaded it on every single admin page, but it only needed to load on the customizer page. So the hooks are really good in that you can actually in a lot of cases specify where you want it to load. So just on that point, similar.
Yep. Yeah, especially now with the customizer, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it's something more standard than in the past.
Yeah, and then of course, if you want to look at filters, you look for the apply filters. So there's the comment post, redirect. It's passing a location and a comment, so obviously that's going to matter. The one that is important is location. Link category, the link title, the shake error codes. These are things that can be easily filtered. And of course there's media upload tabs, certain things that themes shouldn't be doing, but it's good to know. Even if you're just developing or even reviewing, you can get an idea of what it's doing.
Exactly. One thing that I've actually seen mentioned a few times in the main channel is to do with excerpts. I've probably seen it a few times in the past. month or two, and then this is how you can control the length of excerpts on blog pages for specific posts, doing by understanding the relevant filter, which in this case I think is get comment excerpt or excerpt length. Sorry, that's the one. Excerpt length.
Yeah. It's always a fun one.
Yeah.
Especially because everyone always tries to do it their own way, and it's like, no, it's already built in.
Exactly. I've seen so many different ways, and also when you do use, those filters, you have to make sure you're using them correctly, because sometimes, there could be plugins which are also using, like if we take the excerpt example, using that particular feature, and you can inadvertently filter the content that's being output there. So you want to wrap your filters and things in conditionals to make sure you're targeting exactly where you want to target.
Yeah, and you have to use your and when you name a function, please use a unique name based on what it's doing, not something general open or because it's always better to use your theme name everywhere, so you avoid mostly the danger of make some conflict, because it could happen if you use too obvious name, too general name. So use a specific name and read what's in the documentation about the action that you can filter, or without doing an action from scratch.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's a really good point, because this is pretty. It can get very advanced level of coding, and I've come across cases where people have clearly Googled how to, achieve something, but you'll find that, if you find that post, someone else has.
But it's useful. Sometimes Google is a good. It's good if you know what you are doing, and if you use recent code. But if you use 3 or 4 years ago code, maybe something has changed, and so you have to be careful.
Always change.
So Google or Stack Exchange or every place you can get clever code. Okay, it's good, but you have to know what you are doing, because copying is not bad if you know what you are doing. And if you only copy and paste without knowing anything about what the code is doing, it's a problem. Even if you use some theme that came from an unofficial place, okay, I try to remain because in internet there are a lot of themes that come from not from official marketplace, and people use them without knowing anything about the code that is inside that kind of theme, so that they can install in production theme that with very bad code. So please only use try to use the theme coming from repository of WordPress or from marketplace, well-known marketplace, because you have to know what's code is inside and how it's written.
Exactly. I mean, and these things are just getting increasingly more important. The fact that tickets can get closed, potential, author program on the horizon. We need to make sure that people are doing the best they can. Only really, if you don't understand the code, don't submit it. If you have any doubt, have a chat with someone and get it addressed before you submit it. But don't just copy and paste if you don't fully understand it. Almost certainly it's going to be some sort of issue.
Yeah, so we actually have a question on the theme review channel. SmartCat, he's actually asking, are we allowed to use Composer for auto-loading and PSR namespacing and themes to avoid conflict for function names? What's your guys' stance on that?
I'm not... Let me read that question over in...
Not too familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar. When it comes to this is just essentially a prefixing question, isn't it?
To an extent.
Yeah, so when it comes to prefixing,
Do you actually know what Composer is?
I don't.
Yeah, I think it's something that it could become more used. We are becoming more familiar with front end or with other things that like Composer or NPM or something like instruments that are more used in front end developing. Maybe will bring us to let this kind of instrument be used more than are now, because now I think that we are approaching a completely new way of designing themes. REST API, the revolution has started from the 4.7 version of WordPress, so I think that we change in an unpredictable way. So using Composer or any other thing that could be a very helpful way of maintaining and avoid collision, like the interesting question come from Slack. I think that we have to talk about in the team review channel or in the core team about the new standard that the team could adopt in the future.
Okay, yeah, that's something that I'm not familiar with really at all. But the end result is still the same. When you submit your code to the repo, it still has to comply with all the requirements. It doesn't matter if there's a fancy way that's being used to do it. And also, you have to remember that the person who's reviewing your theme is a volunteer, and we don't need to necessarily make their task overly complex. So just if there is something being done that is maybe a bit different, it's best to I don't know, maybe note in ticket explaining it or something like that. Because if I picked up a ticket that wouldn't necessarily get it.
Yeah, no, so Composer it's literally a dependency.
Okay.
So you can list dependencies, things saying like, oh, so my theme depends on this, so you need to load it.
Oh, okay, fine.
It's like very simplistic way of explaining it.
Yeah, nowadays I think no, it's not allowed. Nowadays you have to put your theme in the repository without using any external stuff that help to maintain.
Part of it is because it's the mentality of when I activate a theme, it should just work. I shouldn't need anything else. That is what it comes down to. Like, it's simple as that.
I think that's essential. I think it's essential. A user shouldn't need to do anything in addition to just installing the theme for it to work.
Yeah.
And that's
maybe
one
in the future,
of the things too, like especially for the questions that are like, oh, well, what if they require, or what if they say this works better with WooCommerce, it works better with this plugin. It's like, really, it's a theme. All you're doing is changing the content. You're changing the way it's displayed.
Exactly.
You're not adding any functionality. You shouldn't be adding any functionality. Ideally, it should just click, make your site pretty.
The collision for function names. The best way to avoid them is to use a personal name or name based on your theme, and not using words like a WordPress or a PHP or something very, very. You have to use your name. In fact, I suggest to use name like Umbrella or something very completely different from the programming environment. So
not
if
something
you use
simple like my this function, right?
My custom function is not the best name.
But it's my custom function. It should work.
And I mean, that's the same with all the actions and stuff. You can add your custom actions, which is probably more advanced than where we were going to touch on. But we touched on some hooks here, didn't we? And actions. You can add your own custom actions. Those also obviously need to be prefixed on the subject of prefixing.
Yep, and that's the other one, because obviously there are quite a few plugins that have actions like that. That's one of the things that I always find really funny is when I look over a theme and I see do action and it's the name of the theme, but it's not the theme that's being submitted.
Okay.
So I'm just like, so
They clearly just
what are you
copy
trying
and
to tell me here?
You're trying to
and there's
tell
no
me
credit
something.
to that thing as well.
So
Yeah. But no, because I think that copy and paste is an art. You have to. It's not. It's easy, but you have to be
yeah,
very
I actually
prepared
wrote
to
out.
copy and paste.
Yeah, I actually wrote out a post a while back saying that copy pasting is actually hurting your code. One of the common ones that I kept seeing was it's the comment form. They literally, it was the same exact code for like 5 different themes from like 3 authors, I think. I'm just like, how do you all get the same exact code? And
Stack Exchange.
it's a comment form. There's a filter for it. Use it. You should be doing that instead.
Yeah.
But I was just like, no, it's not gonna happen. Come on.
Yeah. But fortunately, it's open source, so we can find everything about it.
Yeah, no lawsuits.
Oh, very true, very true.
Yeah.
In the old time of compiled code, this was more difficult to discover.
Yeah.
But nowadays,
No, so obviously we're actually pretty close to going over all the stuff that we wanted to go over. Is there anything else you guys wanted to touch upon?
I just wanted to touch on one point briefly,
Okay.
which we covered in the slides. So slide 9 and slide 10. I guess with regards to that alarm clock function, I guess one of the main things to take away from that is the one on slide 9 is not child theme friendly. Like there would be no way for a user to customize that alarm clock function in its current state without modifying the core theme code. There is another way that they can do it, which again is not as nice as filtering, but you can wrap it in a condition detector if the function already exists.
You're becoming robotic a little bit.
you're talking the code in slide 9.
Yes, I was saying in slide 9, the function slide is just showing how the one in slide 9 could be done in a much nicer way, and that's the sort of take-home point as to that particular function in the example.
I think for a child theme, I think that should be used if you write a template with the same name and you write this piece of code in the same template name file, and so you can overprint this how this is behave in the parent theme. I think that in that situation you can use in child theme or not.
You can use it in a child theme if the function, the parent theme, has a condition around it, checking that the function does not really exist, because a child theme will load before the parent theme.
Yeah, it's a lot like the conditional checks or the function checks, right?
Exactly.
Obviously, if you do want to make it child theme friendly, one of the things that you can do, of course, is do the if function check, or like in slide 10, create that filter.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's really
the one
what it
in
comes
slide
down
10.
to. It makes it easier because it's one of those where, do you want to add a couple lines of code where add filter and then the callback function, or do you want to recreate the entire file?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, of course, using a filter, it doesn't have to be just a child theme. It could also be a plugin.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I suggest a lot of time to people that want to modify or make something like a child plugin, because when you have to modify something that is working with the plugin, you find that completely fit your need. But if you want to make some change, you have to make your plugin, and inside your plugin, you can make all the different BA that you need in your website. So in the next update, everything remains quite the same, because if you click the update button, if you don't write the code in the right way, everything explodes.
Yeah.
Thing you have to avoid.
It's like the old adage: don't touch core unless you really have to.
Exactly. We are the church of the code, so please
You should
modify.
be a preacher, Cristiano.
Like Richard Stallman, like Richard Stallman. In Turing, he went to make because in Turing we make an adoption of open source code and Linux installation in our public offices. And Richard Stallman may make a benediction to all of us. So
Oh,
we are,
wow. That's nice. I think we've
yeah.
like elevated what this team does. Now we're into like blessing people's code. So.
Start praising them. Oh, ye code. But yeah, no, it's a matter of actually, of course, understanding too. It's if you really don't understand the code, just either ask or
Yeah.
or look it up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, I would stress: do not submit code that you don't understand. You know, it's just going to cause issues. Worst case scenario is your theme gets closed. You know, ask a question to somebody, and you can avoid that.
Yep.
There is the forum, the support forum. There are a lot of volunteers.
IRC.
Yeah,
Like there's a bunch of channels you can join. Literally, it's a matter of wanting to learn. That's what it comes down to. If you really want to learn, obviously apply it. It's the adage of like, okay, so one student decided that he's gonna learn to play the guitar, so he studies 10 minutes a day for a year, can finally learn to play a song. And then you have another student that decides, hey, I want to play the guitar too, but he decides that, oh, I'm gonna actually practice 10 hours a day. In that same time span, or in that year, he's learned tons and tons of songs in between, whereas the one that was only practicing for like 10 minutes a day still only knows the one song in that year. It's the amount of time you put in is the amount that you're going to learn.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, theme development is not easy. It's not easy for starters to develop a theme, and it's even harder to keep on top of the changing rules and guidelines and WordPress core updating,
exactly,
dependent plugins updating. Just make sure you understand it. Really, that's the key to it.
And it's something that you have to follow. You have to follow all the environment changes, the core changes, all the standard that will change, because sometimes something that if you are a professional developer, you have to explain when you sell something to a client. You have to explain that it's something that will evolve. So you have to sell also something, your assistance in the future, because a bad practice I've seen many times is okay, I make you a customization, a plugin, bye, hello, and then the client alone click upgrade.
Exactly.
So it will call you. But you make it. You sell me something wrong, and now it's not functioning anymore. But it's not a problem because of you, but you have to sell the assistance. You have to remain near the client and not let him alone when you sell a theme or any kind of customization of WordPress. I think that this is very important. In our meetups we always talk about this. So
exactly,
you have to remain near the client, not.
I mean, even
not selling a product.
Exactly, even on the point of like free themes being distributed. If a user experiences an issue in updating, you have to think about the reputational impact of WordPress, of other theme developers. So it's really important to think of it outside of your one theme. Think of it in terms of the bigger picture, because who knows, you might submit a theme that just takes off and has tons of users. You need to make sure it's developed to the right standards. Obviously theme reviewers will try and catch it, but just try and make their life a little bit easier.
It's also one of those where it's, if you do submit a theme, like what's the next inspiration going to be? Exactly. Because I guarantee you that most of the submissions that were in there or are in there are because they were inspired by some other theme.
Mm-hmm.
Kubrick,
I think
for example.
Nowadays,
people were inspired because like, oh, this is different, or at least they felt it was different, and then they forked that. You know, they did their own thing.
Yeah.
Magazine layouts. You know, Instagram layouts, Pinterest, things like that will obviously inspire people. It's like, oh, hey, I want to do this, and you see them in the theme repo. It's one of those, like I said, what's the next inspiration going to be?
Exactly. So we've probably covered the subjects of the Hangout. Were there any closing comments?
Yeah, I think we can actually, because obviously we've gone over all that stuff. So we'll go backwards this time. So Afsal, do you have any closing remarks?
I guess just what I've been saying throughout. You know, the biggest thing about understanding these, first of all, it makes your code easier to understand. It makes it easier to develop, more update friendly, faster, more secure. So this is actually a really important subject to understand. It's very, very technical. So in this Hangout, we've actually only covered the basics. It can go way more advanced than this, but it's really important to understand the basis of how these things work.
Very true.
Yeah.
All right, Cristiano?
Yeah, and before you start to make something completely new, read the documentation, read the complete WordPress documentation, because maybe you'll find something that is what you are looking for. So don't reinvent the wheel every time. Try to understand if something is already present in WordPress. So maybe you can only edit with some part of the workflow using filters, for example. And so, and if you don't know if it's inside, ask in the Slack channel or in the forum in support, or in your local meetups. You can go there and ask to WordPress people that are always you are welcome in every meetups in the world.
Awesome. All right, and then me, of course. The only thing I really have is my basic thing. Always ask. You know, if you're unsure, ask. There's always someone there. Theme review channel, core, customize, all those channels are there for that reason. If you're not sure what's going on, ask. IRC channels. Yeah. There's make blogs. There's tons of tutorials out there. Don't hesitate to ask. It's a lot easier to get a question answered than not. So other than that, I think we can call it, right?
Brilliant. Thanks again for your time, everyone.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.